This is Season 10, and this season we're focusing on the people who make data work, the data professionals shaping how business is run. From data engineers and scientists to stewards, analysts, and architects, these roles don't work in silos. They collaborate, balancing trust, governance, scale, and speed to turn raw data into real impact. Because data professionals aren't just supporting the business, they're driving it forward. This season, we'll explore how ideas become impact, the decisions, the day-to-day realities, and the challenges of building data-driven organizations. This is Let's Talk Data. Let's talk about the work that makes data matter.
So welcome to Season 10 of the Let's Talk Data podcast series presented by SAP, where we break down how businesses can go from data overload to data confidence, smarter decision-making, and real business transformation. If you haven't done so already, please follow or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite channel to stay tuned in. Have you ever looked at two dashboards about the same business and thought, wait, are we even speaking the same language here? Chaos. And here is the spicy part. AI can even amplify this chaos if the visuals and the semantics are not consistent, because then, of course, we scale confusion at machine speed. So what if your corporate reports, your corporate dashboards, all felt familiar? And what if decision makers grasped the message in seconds? Today we'll talk about International Business Communication Standards, also known as IBCS, how it helps achieve these goals, and how SAP customers can operationalize it with SAP Analytics Cloud, SAC, and Business Data Cloud, BDC. Hello everyone, my name is Thierry Audas. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing with SAP, and today I'm excited because we're tackling something that sounds niche until you realize that it affects literally every meeting where a chart is on the screen. How we communicate business data clearly and consistently. And I'm joined today by two people who live and breathe this topic literally. First, Jürgen Faisst from the International Business Communication Standards Organization. Jürgen, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Thierry. Great to be here. Excited for this one.
Good. And also joining us today, Kristian Rümmelin, Vice President of Product Management for Data and Analytics at SAP. Kristian, you've been deep in the practitioner reality of data and analytics on how people consume analytics and insights. Welcome, and thank you also for being with us today.
Thank you, Thierry. I'm actually very excited to be part of this particular podcast because data visualization and information design has been a passion during my whole career, and I'm part of the IBCS journey now since 2012, knowing you, Jürgen, of course, for many years, and also Wolf Rickert. So glad to be with you guys today.
Well, that's right, Kristian. I remember that you were an IBCS certified consultant long before you joined SAP.
Wow, that is awesome, guys. So, all right, here is our roadmap for today's episode. First, we'll start with what IBCS is in plain language, right? Then we'll talk about value, why this matters to business analysts and all decision makers. Then what's new in IBCS? And after that, we'll connect the dots. IBCS and SAP, what does this mean exactly? And finally, we'll go through a practical how to get started playbook for SAP customers, including pitfalls, myth busting, and a final lightning round. Jürgen, let's start with a classic sales challenge. You're in an elevator with an executive. You have 30 seconds. What is IBCS?
Well, here's my elevator pitch. IBCS is a set of practical standards for how we design and read business, charts, tables, entire reports, so that the same thing always looks the same. And people can understand the message faster with fewer misinterpretations and so on. It's essentially a common visual language for business.
Interesting. Common visual language. I love that. Well, because right now, many are basically doing improved theater with charts, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you look into any kind of professional discipline, if it's song sheets in music, maps for navigation, signs in traffic, or circuit diagrams in electronics. You will find these semantic standards everywhere. Surprisingly, in data visualization, still until today, many people consider this kind of a freestyle sport where colors are used to let charts look nice instead of carrying a real meaning.
Exactly. So, okay, Jürgen, please break it down for us. What does IBCS actually standardize? Pillars, scope, what's in, what's out, in a nutshell.
Well, let's say at a high level, IBCS standardizes notation semantics, as Kristian just mentioned, so that things that mean the same always are represented in the same way. So, for example, the visual encoding of scenarios such as actual or plan and forecast data, they always look the same, and this eliminates the need for reinventing the wheel when you design it. In addition, it enforces consistent scaling and highlighting to avoid misleading interpretations. So what's important is it's not design for design's sake. The point is cognition. Consistent patterns reduce the time your brain spends decoding, so you can focus on the business message.
So instead of what does the blue mean in this chart, we go straight to, gosh, our forecast is drifting. What do we need to do to fix it, right?
That's exactly what I mean, yes.
Now, let's be honest. I mean, people sometimes hear standards and they think police. Jürgen, what's the right balance of rules versus guidelines?
Well, of course, if you invent such a thing, then guidelines always have this kind of police. But IBCS is pragmatic. There are rules where consistency is absolutely crucial and guidance where teams need flexibility. So the goal is not to remove thinking, it's to remove the noise, the visual noise.
Yeah, and actually, everyone who sees the standard for the first time gets it immediately. Solid, outlined, hatched for actuals, budgets, and forecast. So these standards just reduce debate. You stop spending meeting time arguing about colors and start arguing about the decisions, which is the much better problem, right? So, and once you know the standard, reading reports just becomes so much faster and easier. A bit like playing the piano while simultaneously reading the song sheets on the fly in music.
I love this analogy with your piano. So now, what about IBCS in the new age of AI and Gen AI? Is IBCS still relevant even?
What a question. I think yes, it is more than ever. Because AI and generative AI increases the volume of content. You've got more insights, more dashboards, more narratives. And if you don't standardize this communication, you scale inconsistency. Yeah? With IBCS, you create kind of stable grammar so that AI generated or at least AI assisted analytics, they land in a format that people can trust, quickly interpret and act upon.
Wow, scale inconsistency. That's terrifying, isn't it?
Yes, but that's
Now,
exactly what it
yeah,
is. Yeah.
yeah. Now let's make it real for our listeners, data analysts, BI leads, COE folks. I mean, what's the cost of inconsistency and how does IBCS help to reduce it?
Well, actually, inconsistency creates friction. That means there's slower comprehension, misunderstandings across functions or regions, and you need to rework things. IBCS reduces it by giving teams a shared vocabulary and reusable patterns.
So let's wait. What am I looking at? Or more, I get it. Now what? Right?
Exactly. Like in music notes, like Kristian just put it in music notes. Yes.
Yeah. And there's also the design depth, right? Like tech depth, but in reporting and analytics, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just think of a typical real life example. You're in a company and you've built 300 or more reports over the years with completely different conventions. Then a new colleague joins, for example. Then you're spending weeks to let them learn how we do charts and analytics here. So these templates and standards, semantics, they just reduce the onboarding time, make teams faster, more efficient and effective.
I love it. So switching gear a little bit here, Jürgen, you told me before that you recently ran a survey, a user survey with IBCS. Please give us a headline. What did the survey tell?
Well, actually, we wanted to know in a recent scientific study, together with the Technical University of Munich and a consulting company called Blue Forte, we wanted to know, we asked more than 800 experienced report recipients around the world to review real life reports. So half of them received the original real life reports, while the other half received IBCS compliant redesigned versions, so remakes. We are still working on the final statistics, but the preliminary results are already striking. We see that participants needed around 46% less time to understand the IBCS compliant sales and finance reports and to answer questions about their content, 46% time savings. And even more importantly, the number of incorrect answers, which may lead, of course, then to wrong decisions, was reduced by 40%.
Wow, that's awesome. Great proof points for the value of IBCS, right? I mean, thank you for sharing it with our listeners today. And now a big emotional question on top of this value here. I mean, users sometimes hear IBCS as like a constraint, and they worry that it may limit them. So in your experience, is it enabling or limiting?
I know about that argument, and of course it's enabling because it frees the creativity for the analysis and the message creation, not for reinventing notation. It's like in writing. Grammar does not limit the ideas of a novelist, it makes them understandable. And I've never heard from a novelist, composer, or architect that using the same notation as others would limit their creativity. On the contrary, they are pleased that they do not have to concern themselves with formatting and how to record their thoughts.
Yeah, that's another great analogy. And it's also an interesting reminder, right? I mean, with IBCS, we are not standardizing thinking, we are standardizing communication, right? So now, Jürgen, let's discuss what's new with IBCS. I believe that you guys have been cooking something really exciting lately, isn't it?
I love it. Cooking. Yes, we have been cooking. Almost 3 years ago, I was invited to present the IBCS concept of a standardized notation for business reporting at an ISO conference. You know, ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, ISO. And this conference was held at the European Parliament in Brussels. The audience was absolutely surprised that no convention for consistent reporting exists yet. And they encouraged us to apply for an ISO project. This application was accepted by all national standardization bodies. So all bodies around the globe, such as ANSI in the United States or, DIN in Germany. And ISO subsequently established a working group to develop this standard. I'm pleased to be part of this editorial team. The initial draft was reviewed and refined across multiple levels, and I'm happy to share now that just 4 weeks ago, we got the final approval from all national standardization bodies. ISO 24896, Notation for Business Reporting, this is the name of this standard, is expected to be published before the next ISO conference on May 26 in Strasbourg. At the same time, we have been working on version 2.0 of the IBCS standards to ensure that those IBCS standards, this version of the IBCS standards, is fully aligned with ISO 24896 and to clearly separate the notation part of IBCS, which is actually an extended version of ISO 24896 now, from the composition or storytelling part. The public consultation on this IBCS 2.0 draft has been concluded at the end of January, and we are currently addressing the 372, I think, comments that we received. We expect that IBCS 2.0 will be approved and released during the IBCS annual conference on June the 12th.
Wow, this is amazing. Congratulations to the team for this great achievement. I mean, that will bring you more exposure to the market. Fantastic. This makes me think of another AI question, actually, because now every podcast episode has to talk about AI at length. Otherwise, the internet revokes our podcast license. So,
Okay.
on the basis of this ISO standard, I mean, how do you see IBCS evolving in the future in the age of AI and GenAI?
You know, today we chat with AI, and this chatting with AI works because we share a common language, including its morphology, syntax, and semantics. We share this with AI. So if we prompt it in common language. Large language models have become even more proficient than humans at applying these rules. So this grammar we have there. Compared to this well-defined conventions of natural language, we also have it in music notation or in construction plans, electric circuits, maps, where it's all over the place. But we in business, with our IBCS guidelines, we are only at a starting point. So considerably more normative structure is required before we can speak of a true visual language. Analytical AI will depend on such a visual language to communicate effectively, just as a large language model relies on natural language.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, in a way, I mean, in the AI GenAI context, IBCS is like another set of guardrails, right? Guardrails for meaning. And I understand it's really relevant with AI accelerating content creation and dissemination. So yeah, well done. So now going back to you, Kristian, from the SAP side, we see self-service analytics and BI that keeps expanding. Business users building more content on their own faster. So how do standards such as IBCS keep up without slowing teams down? What do you think?
I mean, the key is to make standards easy to adopt and that products support the standards out of the box. Baked into templates, themes, reusable building blocks. So the right way becomes the default way. And when practitioners can start from a certified pattern, they are productive and compliant at the very same time. So this makes things just simple.
Now let's connect the dots a step further, right? I mean, Kristian, start us off, please. Where do you see SAP customers most commonly applying IBCS?
I mean, IBCS often starts in management reporting, typically in financial planning, financial analytics, board business reviews, anywhere where consistency and fast comprehension really matters. But it also can be adopted in any kind of business function, in supply chain, in sales, in HR, any domain where people need to make decisions quickly with shared definitions in a professional environment.
So that takes us to a bit of history here, right? Looking back, I mean, where it's relevant. So Jürgen, how did the relationship between IBCS and SAP start and evolve over the time? I mean, Kristian mentioned before that you've been working together for more than a decade, I believe. So how did you see that the evolution over the time?
Well, interestingly, the relationship did not begin with the software guys. IBCS is something around finance. So in 2011, or at that time, it was focused very much on finance. In the meanwhile, we are much wider, but at that time, it was SAP's finance and controlling department in Waldorf that was interested. There was the CFO at that time, Werner Brandt, who invited Rolf Hichert, the founding father of IBCS and my partner today, to present his ideas. As a result, SAP's internal finance reporting was really turned completely upside down. The software guys followed in 2014, so 3 years later, when they began developing SAP Analytics Cloud, which at that time was called Cloud for Planning. And then in 2016, SAP passed its first certification audit. And I just realized, by the way, Kristian, hey, we can now celebrate the 10th anniversary. Congratulations.
Wow, really 10 years. 10 years.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
And with each recertification, SAP has achieved a higher level of IBCS compliance. The latest recertification audit was conducted, I think it was in February this year, and it's valid for another 2 years.
Happy anniversary, guys. We'll have to celebrate that at some point. Now back to the podcast. I mean, moving to practitioner time. So SAP Analytics Cloud is in scope here, both as a standalone solution historically, and moving forward as a component of BDC since last year. So Kristian, for someone building analytics on BI applications, on dashboards with SAC, where do IBCS templates on certified components help most?
I mean, everywhere in analytics. So we have standardized table and chart visualizations. We show variances. We have consistent scenario encoding. So the biggest acceleration actually comes when teams stop to start from a blank page, but start to use the standard.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. I also want to bring something super practical here that I hear teams may struggle with. That is, IBCS is a standard, right? But its implementation may have limits. So how should practitioners think about this kind of limits?
The most important thing is to be pragmatic. So use what's built in. Start small and enhance later. Start with focusing on the 20% of conventions that will bring you 80% of the clarity. Just to give you a few examples, so use the IBCS defined color coding. Work with the clear title concept. Use variance charts to show relative values. And use aligned scaling factors and units. These are some simple rules that can be adopted super fast, super easy, and already these few rules will provide a lot of additional value to your reports.
So 80-20 rule applies again. Great. So now, can you guys think of scenarios that are the best fit to get started with IBCS in early pilots or any project?
Well, from my experience, the most important thing is to start as high as possible in your organization. Convincing your CFO, probably even the CEO, is perfect. And then convert a CFO deck, let's say some board meeting slides or whatever you have, something with a high visibility, some recurring reports. And then if you convert them to IBCS, then people will see the impact immediately.
I would totally agree, also based on my experience. So I think IBCS is not an IT topic. It's about the consumer. Yeah. And this is why I think it makes total sense to start in the business department, head of controlling with the CFO, with many used reports. So pick something that is used often and everywhere. Then show a before and after example that is really impactful, and then it will sell itself completely on its own.
That's interesting. So let's go deeper here. So Kristian, I'm an SAP Analytics Cloud customer. Give me your IBCS plan for day 1, day 30, day 90 even. How does it looking like?
So at the very beginning, on day 1, align on a small style guide. Again, be pragmatic. Don't boil the ocean. Yeah? Define a scenario and semantics in this style guide with actual plan and forecast. Define how variances are shown. Define a few default charts, a few default tables, and just get started.
So decide the grammar first.
Yeah, exactly. And then on day 30, convert a few of these rules into important reports. Again, reports that are often used, like a recurring executive business review pack or a key operational dashboard, and turn it into a IBCS compliant version. Create a report gallery with, again, a clear before and after example so that people can see it, and seeing is believing. And then finally, when you're a bit more advanced on day 90, roll out and establish governance. Who owns the standard in the company? How are we dealing with exceptions? How can we build reusable assets with themes, templates, and widget patterns? Then we add some lightweight review cycles with office hours to help people to adopt the standards. Or we work on checklists that people can use before and during publishing. And again, be pragmatic. Get started, rest will follow.
Yeah, that is great, crisp. I mean, and I really like this idea of a small style guide to get started. That's very, very interesting. So, Jürgen, anything to add from your perspective?
Well, we just to add something, we call this small style guide a cheat sheet. Yeah, actually just a one-pager with the most important rules. And then the question is how you prioritize that. Start with the conventions that remove confusion. For example, consistent meanings. So green means good, red means bad. Huh? Or in tables, where are the totals? Are they at the bottom or the top? And you probably show them consistently in a bold face. Or a big one, use the fill patterns for scenario encoding so that the meaning even survives if you do printing or if people have color deficiencies. For instance, actual values, solid, forecast, hatched, and plan data is shown outlined.
Yeah, and I like that you call out printing because, yes, people still export to PDF and send it around for printing, isn't it? So let's get tactical now on tooling. So, Kristian, can you give practitioners or listeners today a few concrete examples of what they can implement?
Yeah, sure. So, and to stay with the cheat sheet example, so things that should definitely part of your cheat sheet are the following: theme and formatting conventions, aligned number formats, access conventions, titles and subtitles, a consistent naming conventions for measures and scenarios. But again, if your semantic layer is inconsistent, visuals won't save you. So semantics is really key here. Then second, table. For operational and financial reporting, create a standard table with a standard layout and reuse it. And then another important thing for annotations and comments, use also a structured title and commenting concept. And again, where it helps, leverage the IBCS templates and patterns so that teams do not need to reinvent them.
Yeah, on Jürgen, I saw examples of very concrete template improvements that people discuss, like dealing with merge headers, showing signs, minus, plus, data point commenting on export even. Can you speak to that real-world friction angle?
Well, the problem is that practitioners often must bridge the standard with tool behaviors. We are lucky with Analytics Cloud that it supports many things, but Well, if with other tools you probably have problems with merged header layouts and so, well, you have to deal with that. With consistent plus and minus display for comparison columns, and then you use data point commenting as an alternative to annotations, especially when exporting to PDF. So those are the kinds of pragmatic details that make, at the end, a standard sustainable.
Yeah, I guess that's goal for our listeners because standards may succeed or fail in the teeny details, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah. So now sometimes our tough love. So, Jürgen, what's the number one reason IBCS rollouts may stall?
Well, it's probably the same one as in all change management projects. If you don't have executive management sponsorship, you will probably fail.
Yeah, right. So convince your boss, pick a small number of high-value assets, and win loudly, right?
Exactly, that's what it is.
Yeah. So now there is always somebody to say, but I like my rainbow chart. So how do you handle stakeholder resistance?
I typically ask, do you want your chart to be liked or do you want it to be understood? And then I typically show a comparison from the rainbow chart before and an after example using IBCS rules. And when people see that, how quickly they can read the standardized version, especially if they look at multiple reports, the resistance drops immediately.
Excellent. So now before we wrap up, myth busting time, rapid fire. So myth number one, IBCS kills creativity. Jürgen, what do you think?
Well, does using the same language as others kill the creativity of novelists? Of course not. Be creative in the story, but do not reinvent the wheel when it comes to the meaning of colors every week, you know?
So myth number two now for you, Kristian. It's only for finance.
This is a clear no. I think that every function that needs analytics benefits from IBCS. Of course, finance, yeah, but also supply chain, sales, HR, sustainability, anything with professional analytics and reporting needs.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to something you mentioned shortly before, right? I mean, another pitfall we've seen quite often that is inconsistent semantics. If forecast means three different things for three different teams, then the chart can be perfect. It will still be misleading, right?
Yeah, actually, a nice looking chart that is misleading can never be perfect. And this is why semantics first and visuals will follow.
Yeah, and SAC and BDC can help for sure. So now we're heading into the lightning round. One sentence each, no overthinking. We keep it simple and short. Kristian, one dashboard, one report you wish everyone would fix first.
C-level KPI overview, including metrics from finance and other functions where every tile uses different definitions and formatting. I think that's a great report to make consistent at the beginning.
Right. So Jürgen, one for you now. One IBCS rule that gives something like 80% of the benefit.
Well, 80% is probably a bit a lot, but well, consistent notation of scenarios, so actual, plan, and forecast, and their variances, so red and green, so that people can stop decoding and start deciding. That will probably bring 80%.
Excellent. So now, what's your favorite before and after transformation story from your experience?
Well, you know the SAP finance department. This is definitely one of them. It's more than 12 years ago when they started, and the impact has been sustainable. I met with them last year to review their reporting, and they are still convinced and fully compliant, 100% compliant.
Wow, it's amazing. I love it. So now moving on to resources. So Jürgen, where can listeners find the IBCS standards and templates and even training resources?
Just visit IBCS.com. This is a perfect source. You find everything you need. So including the latest IBCS version, even the draft of the new version you will find there. You find practical chart and template and table templates. You find a training calendar, a list of IBCS certified consultants who can support you. So just go to IBCS.com.
Fantastic. So final word for you, Kristian. I mean, for SAP practitioners, where should they start if they want to apply IBCS in SAP and in BDC?
Open SAP Analytics Cloud, pick an existing report, then build a small pilot using IBCS rules. Do this for some key analytical assets, then operationalize it with some reusable components and governance, and then you will scale in BDC.
Wow, that's easy. Amazing. So, well, Jürgen, Kristian, thank you so much for joining us for this episode today and for helping making the case that clarity is not a nice to have, it's a competitive advantage. So for those listening in, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. As we do come to an end, please don't forget to check out the notes for this episode for more information on helpful links, such as the link to ibcs.com that Jürgen mentioned before. Now, on behalf of SAP and IBCS, we wish you well, and we hope you tune in next time for the next episode of the Let's Talk Data podcast presented by SAP.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Data. If this episode sparked something for you, we want to hear about it. The questions you're asking, the challenges you're navigating, and the work you want to go deeper on. You'll find additional context and resources in the show notes if you want to go deeper. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and stay tuned as we continue exploring how data professionals turn ideas into impact. Thank you for being part of the conversation.